Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan Dormish here at the good old IGN with my friend Tom Marks.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about the fact that Ubisoft gave us a bit of vague but interesting news about their coming fiscal year.
Yes.
Because fiscal years and numbers are fun. But during Ubisoft's Q3 fiscal report, they said 5 major AAA Ubisoft games are coming in late 2020 and early 2021. So 3 AAA games will come in the last 3 months of 2020, and then 2 will come in early 2021, which would be January to the end of March.
It's a packed 6 months.
It's not bad. 5 AAA games on top of whatever DLC and other things they release in just 6 months. So they didn't say what any of those games will be, but we have some thoughts on what likely is going to show up in that rundown of games, as well as maybe what might not show up. So I do want to start with the game that they said definitively isn't one of these 5 AAA games. Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
During the earnings call, they confirmed Beyond Good and Evil 2 is not one of these 5 games, which either means they don't consider it AAA, which I don't think is the case, or it's way further off.
Yeah, I think this one's not a huge surprise to not be this close, because they've actually shown a lot of Beyond Good and Evil 2 since they re-announced it, or whatever it was, at E3 a few years ago, and it's just still in development. It's still early. Like, you can go onto the Beyond Good and Evil site right now and see kind of where that game is at, and it's definitely not within a year.
That game feels to me a lot like they are really okay and content to just let it take as much time as it needs.
Yeah.
This is a game that they are making for a dedicated fan base who has waited for a long time, and it's okay to just, as long as it's the game they want it to be, they'll let it take as long as it needs.
Yeah.
Within monetary reason. Anyway, moving on to the games that I think we both agree are definitely part of this 5 lineup wherever they land would be Rainbow Six Quarantine, Watch Dogs Legion, and Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, this is stuff that they've previously announced, and is kind of the stuff that, in a weird way, feels the most tangible. It feels like we've heard about them for a while. They haven't said a ton about really any of these games except for like Legion. I think they've shown them.
We got to play it, Ethan.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that all 3 of those games are a safe bet. Maybe not for the end of 2020 window, but at least the beginning of 2021. That whole window, almost certainly. Those are going to show up.
Yeah, those feel like givens, especially because they were originally set to launch in early 2020, but then Ubisoft delayed them during, I believe, another earnings call to late 2021, and obviously late 2020 and may even slip to 2021, because they wanted to also give them more time and co-develop for the next generation of consoles.
Yeah.
Before we had Series X and PS5 as names. But there are some other games that have not been announced that could be in the sphere, but one that has been announced that we haven't seen in a while I do want to get to first, Skull and Bones.
Yes. I don't think this is going to be one of those games,
Yeah.
though. Skull and Bones has had a rocky history. It has sort of come and gone and been quiet for a while, and then we don't really know what its status is. But I think that this is one of those ones where, unless they surprise us and bring it out at E3 and say, wow, look, it's totally new, or we totally went a different direction with it, I think this is one of those ones that's going to take a little longer than anyone is expecting. And honestly, going out on a limb, total speculation, I wouldn't be surprised if this game never sees the light of day. It's a sad thing to say.
It's sad. It's a really interesting one because they keep mentioning it. They didn't really mention it during this earnings call necessarily, but they do bring it up every so often and say like, hey, we're pushing it because we want to give it the time. They have done internal testing, obviously. They've talked about it a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a game that is one of those maybe pushed to next gen, comes out in early access, and they let people get the experience they want, and we see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one feels, I don't think it will be part of this group of 5.
Right.
Some that aren't announced, but we've heard speculation and rumors about. The first one I really want to hit is the next Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
They haven't really talked about a new Assassin's Creed yet, but that feels like a given.
It's kind of one of those worst kept secret things, it feels like at this point. Obviously, like you said, there's nothing confirmed, but there's been so many rumors and so much speculation, so many leaks, whether they're true or not, we're not sure, that this Assassin's Creed might be like a Viking-themed Assassin's Creed.
We've seen a lot of that, yeah.
Like all those things have been flying so much that I think at this point it is a really safe bet that we'll see an Assassin's Creed at the end of 2020. Again, that's, like you said, not confirmed in any way, shape, or form, not announced, but it seems like a good fit, especially going into next gen. It would feel weird not to have an Assassin's Creed in that window.
It feels like it makes sense, and I would even go out on a limb and say when it does get announced, I think it will be announced as one of these late 2020 games, the ones to come out then, because just like with Black Flag, I think they want to be there at the start of the generation. I think it makes sense that it will be on both generations. And yeah, Assassin's Creed does well even in packed falls. So I think it is a great game to bring out in the fall, no matter what other games they have coming out as well.
Yeah.
Moving on from that one, going a little bit further into guesswork of other Ubisoft franchises we haven't seen. What about Far Cry, do you think? Because New Dawn was early last year. We haven't really seen anything since then. And that was a follow-up to Far Cry 5, of course, but...
Yeah, I think Far Cry is also a safe bet here. Though that would be my fifth pick if I was picking a lineup of kind of what I think these 5 games are going to be. It's harder to tell with a series like Far Cry, especially when New Dawn was like not terribly poorly received, but it didn't like light the world on fire.
Sure.
And so, you know, maybe they're trying to go back into the kitchen with that series, or maybe they're just going to say, you know what, this is the time. It's been a few years, and the timing certainly lines up.
Yes, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm curious to see whether they sort of continue the world, because New Dawn built off of Far Cry 5 and was sort of like this ongoing story.
Right.
And whether or not they keep that going or just do, no, here's Far Cry 6, it's its own thing, and we'll keep going forward. But yeah, that one feels sort of like an easy choice. Moving on from that one, I personally am invested in, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. We haven't seen that franchise since the 2017 when it launched exclusively for Switch. And then we had some DLC, I believe, the year after with Donkey Kong. I love that game. I would love to see a sequel. I don't know what that Ubisoft studio is working on since. I hope it's a sequel, but what do you think about that one's odds?
Yeah, this is a funny one to me. I think that it would not surprise me if that game was being made, especially with how well it did, how well it was received, even though when it was first announced, everyone was like, what the heck is this game going to be?
Yeah.
And then it ended up being great. I'm with you. I'd certainly love to see a sequel.
Yeah.
But it also seems less likely in the immediate future to me, just with like how much I think emphasis is going to be put on PS5 and Xbox Series X stuff going forward for a big company like Ubisoft.
For sure. Yeah.
And then also just, you know, multi-IP mixing, things like that are always sort of hard to manage, and even if it did go well, there might be other complications that slow it down that we just don't know about.
For sure, and yeah, I totally agree with you. In a fall and early spring that's meant to be focused on these new consoles, I could see them waiting on that one a little bit if it is in development. Last two that I want to go for are total shots in the dark, but want to hear what you think. First one, Splinter Cell. New Splinter Cell rumors come up every 6 months. Ubisoft has always pretty much said, you know, we have no announcements about the Splinter Cell franchise. We heard some rumors about an Oculus possible partnership with Facebook and Ubisoft for a VR Splinter Cell. But other than that, that franchise has been quiet.
I would not be surprised if Ubisoft has been testing and playing with the idea of a new Splinter Cell internally for a while, and just kind of hasn't been able to make anything work that they like, and that's why we've heard rumors but never actually seen anything happen.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that people, like, the rumor exists because people want it.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a tasty idea that everyone's like, oh, you know, maybe they're working on a Splinter Cell, but I don't think there's anything reason to believe that is what any of these 5 games are.
Yeah, that's sort of how I'm feeling on that one too. And to even go further out on a limb of a franchise we really haven't seen in a while, Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
That's another name that pops up every once in a while. One of those like, remember that franchise Ubisoft? Where did it go? What do you think that could anywhere be in the realm? Or
I think it's certainly one of those things that you could easily see them doing a big reveal for at E3, surprising everyone with like a reboot or something like that. But I don't think that's what we're going to see. I think Far Cry and a new Assassin's Creed are much more likely sort of guest picks in this world, especially in the short term. It's definitely something that could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening. I guess.
Feels less likely.
It feels less likely, especially with the last Prince of Persia reboot kind of not terribly received, but just not exciting everyone to the point where there's this kind of uncontrolled fervor for a new game in that series, kind of like Splinter Cell. There's a lot more fervor. I think we'd see a new Splinter Cell before we ever saw a new
Yeah, that makes sense, though I did love that reboot.
Yeah, fair enough.
Personally, I hope all 5 of these Ubisoft games are just new UbiArts games like Child of Light and Valiant Hearts, but that's probably going out on too far of a limb. Anyway, Tom, thank you so much for speculating with me. Obviously, we'll have many months to find out what these games are. As we find out what they are, we'll be reporting on all of that here at IGN. Let us know in the comments what you think those 5 games are. Give us your top picks, your 5 most dreamed of Ubisoft games, and we'll be checking out on the comments of that. But of course, for everything else Ubisoft related and all of the games that are already announced in 2020, there's so much to cover. You're already in the right place for all of that, IGN.